Jim. He's dead.
Welcome to Improv Autopsy and the second Richard Paul episode. In this episode, Richard and I will discuss some improv failures. We'll share some thoughts on post-show discussion, and I'll run Richard through my version of the Proust Questionnaire. Fair warning, this episode was recorded at the same time as the first Richard Paul episode, so there may be a couple callbacks to earlier discussion. So if there are one or two comments that make you go, huh, that could be the reason.
Okay, so getting back to improv. Well, we're still talking improv, but getting back to this. Richard, on stage, what would you say would be the hardest fail you've experienced, if you can think of one?
There have been so many, Steve. I'm not even sure. I think I've blacked most of them out. There have been so many fails, horrible fails. I think one fail that you and I have laughed about before, I was hosting a show at SAC. I think I yelled at you all. Do you remember this? It was a show, and I think that there was something about an audience member. What happened?
Yes, so there was someone in the audience that they were sensitive about something, which you knew. Being the host, you'd fielded that, and you knew. And I don't think I was in the show. I think I've only heard about it. And you told everyone, I think, in the green room, I don't know if it was at intermission or maybe it was just still the first half, to not joke about something. And I'm not remembering what it was. And everyone thought you were playing a game, and so they were hitting it harder.
Oh, an audience member had fallen.
Oh, yes, that was it.
They had fallen. And I think this was before the show, and so, or no, well, they had fallen, and when the actors were entering stage, because back then we had a big, wide stage at that second location, and people had to run from the back, from the green room, to the stage area, that they were all falling.
Yes.
They all entered and they all pratfalled, so everyone was tripping and falling on purpose.
Yes.
It was already tough and tenuous, like the audience member, I think maybe, I don't know, had a cut or a bruise. And I was trying to, smooth it over because the whole audience seemed concerned. And then it was when we got into the green room after the first half of the show that I started yelling at everyone.
Yes.
And I think the words that were told to me, because I blacked out, I don't even remember what I said. But the words told to me were like, Richard, we had no idea. You knew!
Yeah.
You knew! Is what I said. And it's like, I was like channeling Larry,
David?
David, Larry, yeah. You knew! You knew! You all knew! So that was a fail. I tell you about one of the biggest fails that I ever had. It wasn't so much on stage, but it was backstage, where I was improvising a scene, and I made a move that I guess seemed questionable at the time, and I felt like that the other improviser had just, then wasn't supportive and started finding ways to make fun of me throughout the show. And then when we got into the green room, I totally confronted that person, and it turned into a huge pissing match. It was bad, like the middle of the show, and we had to hold for an extra 5 minutes because this person and we were just going at each other, full tilt, cursing at each other. This person accusing me, I think, of being a not very bright on stage. And I'm calling this person like the biggest bully. It was funny, after that altercation, it wasn't a physical fight, but we definitely were not nice to each other at all. I think there was this respect that was had, that you stood up to me. And that she, in particular, this person, she was a really big deal at the theater at the time. And I could say, yeah, bully. It sometimes would be a bully, very much a bully. But it was a way, I think, to kind of hold the sacredness of her space.
Yeah.
I think, though, she changed her point of view of me when she saw that, he's not always a nice guy. He will stand up for himself when pushed. I regret it because it's just not the way I want to be anymore. I don't want to be someone who's combative, although argumentative. But I do want to challenge when something's happened. I wish you could be more specific, but
That's fine. What
I'm afraid of the outcome.
What is your takeaway? Like, if you were to do that as today's Richard, how would you confront that without it being a verbal altercation? Or
empathy.
Okay.
Empathy. Yeah. Today's Richard would be asking, okay, I take a moment to pause, breathe, and then ask myself the mother of all questions. This is not original to me. This is from someone I really respect. Her name is Dr. Karen Dilstra. Her question is, the mother of all questions, she says, is what's really going on here?
Yeah.
And I say empathy, not you're not. A lot of people get empathy wrong. They think empathy is I have to feel as you feel, and think as you think. Where empathy really means I have to feel as you feel in order to understand what's really going on. I don't have to identify myself with that. If I make how you're feeling and I self-identify with you, then I don't really understand what's going on and I'm making it about me. So you never want to self-identify. You want to be there and feel it so you can understand it. And so that's where I would have gone, and it's like, hey, I hear you're angry, or I hear you have this criticism. It feels icky to me they have this criticism, but you obviously have this thought or this feeling. Could you tell me more about it? Now, Richard may not always do that depending on the situation. Other situations of today, Richard may go, this is not the time or the space to say anything about it, because that other person isn't ready. So again, to do everything you can to not make it about you.
Yeah.
That's what I would tell the younger Richard. Don't make it about yourself, man. You don't like what happened. Ask yourself what you can learn from it. Get back into the game.
I felt Post at SAC was helpful. I feel like I learned a lot through that process too, and it being in other groups that don't do it the same way or have yet to establish the lines of communication to do it well. But I felt like, for the most part, with some exceptions, that those discussions were always done well, even if they weren't fruitful. Like, they weren't always fruitful, and I think that was one of the first things to recognize in a discussion. Not that this is the same as your experience, but just in a post-show discussion or in midway through, that it is just a, hey, this is how I'm feeling. What was going on with you, so that I can we can get on the same page. Versus my feeling was any note in the green room was like, if you can get something out of it, great. Otherwise, it reflects more the person giving it than the person it's directed at.
Right. Well, I think that's the cool. What was cool about that? I call it, like nowadays I call it a social technology. But what are we trying to do? If we can, if you make it into a verb, that is the question for me nowadays. I think for most times it's like, a verb might be clarity, might be, as you said, like getting on the same page. Another verb is comfort, or nowadays, I hear more about people feeling like they need healing from today's world. That the improvisers are going through things.
Yeah.
These are people too, and they're like, yeah, man, mom's not doing well. And I'm just so glad I could be here to have this moment with you guys. Now, I know they say don't treat improv as therapy, but every day in life can be hard, and it doesn't seem to stop anyone else from saying, well, don't treat exercise as therapy. Yeah, you're going out and working out after work because you want to, because you are trying to get that stress out of your body. Yeah, okay. So that I totally get. I didn't understand it before, but I get it now.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the powers of theater and improv as well, being theater, is that you can enter the space feeling one way and leave feeling differently. And I know there are times some Mondays for offsides or getting together to workshop is like, I'm just I'm low energy or whatever, but I'm committed to this. We're going to do it. And with very rare exceptions, I think getting together and doing improv with people, performance or workshop, I leave feeling better and more energized than when I got there.
Mm. Well, what's so funny is I just think that like when I think about posts and notes, what I think what's missing is we're not saying what it is that we're doing. For example, if you give a note and the note's to clarify something so we can fix a hurt or go over or maybe correct a misunderstanding, then that's what we're trying to do. But if you're giving a note because we want to take action, so for example, wow, you did something on stage that really gave me an idea, we should try that more. Now, will we actually take action? And I think that's where sometimes the post process fails.
Okay, yeah.
Is we don't have a mechanism, right? Saying, okay, so then guys, let's use this language. What's our next step to taking that really amazing thing that you did on stage and socializing it with everyone? Because it could be a great tool for audience interaction. It could be a great thing that we do to develop a new long form, right? So what can we, taking something that was discovered and now trying to scale it up so it could be a solution that everyone could enjoy.
Yeah.
That is where I think our post process fails a lot.
Yeah.
And that we just really rely on the people in charge to figure that out and then disseminate, and then we go, stupid, and then or I don't agree with how they want to do it, and then we go through this whole system of befuddling around each other and being clumsy when we could have just talked about it.
Yeah.
And said, but still it starts with leadership, and that leadership says, I want to open up the conversation. Well, we just saw this group did, it was awesome. We know this is improv, we're making it up, but we do know that there are some practices that we could put in our shows to make it stronger. What do you all think? How can we take more of that brilliance that we just saw and make it more commonplace around here? Okay, you got an idea, okay, then why don't you guys group up, you group up, you group up. You guys take the next 2 weeks to work on it, and then we'll come back in, let's pitch these ideas to see if we can build something. See, that's a co-creative world, and that's not a world that, ironically, the world of improv is under. It's still under the hierarchical structure of design, of its organization, because theater, by and large, is still hierarchy.
Yeah.
But you can get to solutions faster if you were actually to flatten the system. And yet, that's what we do on the improv stage, but we can't apply that thinking in real life. It's kind of odd to me.
Yeah. I feel like we did a little bit of that. I feel like that was the some similar ideas are what lay behind the Offsides toolbox, is noticing things that we liked in what we were doing and trying to distill what it was into a sentence or two to throw in the toolbox to look at, just strictly performance bits, not really a bit, but you know what I mean. I have one of them we called J-Lo scenes, and it didn't really have anything to do about J-Lo, but the original scene we saw that in had J-Lo was part of it somehow, and we wrote down J-Lo scenes.
Well, my understanding of the J-Lo scene, because I didn't quite. The toolbox was amazing because it just felt like it was collective learning.
Yeah,
we were all learning it together. But as I understand the J-Lo scene, because I didn't see it, but I heard about it, that one person was playing J-Lo, and I forget the other actor was who they were playing, but they were on a raft.
Yes,
and they were surrounded by alligators, and the raft wasn't very, steady. But they tried everything they could to not talk about the danger that's around them. And we thought, man, that is just such a brilliant way to approach comedy. And that's the thing that I really loved about it, is that it wasn't always focused on, hey, this is an improv best practice. No, we were talking about comedy theory.
Yeah.
We happened then to deliver the theory through improv. That's what I thought was just brilliant about the group, and brilliant about all the people: Jenny McIntyre, Jose Rodriguez, Jamie Black, Stephen Cadwell, and then even people that we worked with briefly, Steve Sherrill, Ron Weaver, and all the group teachers that we learned from and guest performers that we've had come through. There wasn't a day where we weren't trying to abstract a learning, or trying to really synthesize how can we make this and make ourselves and make each other better than we were before.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still have that toolbox. It's awesome. Oh, and by the way, I love that toolbox, not just because of contributions, but like you like taking Johnstone and doing a full analysis, a book analysis, and sharing it with us and say, hey, well, let's argue about it, right? Let's talk about it. Like, what do we think? And that idea of like trying to grow our own learning and then practicing it and trying something and failing and getting it to something, it was I don't know. I just think that kind of process made everyone stronger.
I think so. Yeah, it's definitely. I miss that. I guess it's the iron sharpens iron bit, where we're just we our goal was to get better, always get better. There wasn't really too much else to it, and we were doing festivals and we did some other things as well, but we really just wanted to hone our craft.
Yeah. I'm just curious with you, like you have now studied and worked with different systems, and like, what was something that you really embraced and really enjoyed about your Chicago experience that you now take when you work with groups and you're teaching or leading? Like, what was something about your Chicago experience that you now continue to use?
You're turning the tables, Richard. My time in Chicago was brief. We were there for like 5 years is all. I wasn't in the best headspace for a variety of reasons for a portion of that, but there are some big takeaways I have from that experience. I don't regret it by any means, and I met a lot of great people and had a lot of really great instructors, also some not so great instructors, and part of that is just the machine that is up there in terms of what theaters need just to survive monetarily. So a lot of, you grab people and you throw them into a class to teach it because you need to have the class, because you need the revenue from the class. And so there's sometimes the vetting is a little thin, or at least it was at the time. There are a few things that stick to me. One of them was it's something that Norm Holley with Second City Conservatory program, when we were doing that Norm Holley said, and he was saying that, before you guys were in the you were in the high school of comedy, but now this is the college of comedy. In the college of comedy, you want the laugh regardless of the reason why. The high school of comedy, you wanted to trip somebody, point at them, and laugh at them. The college of comedy, you want to fall down and get laughed at. That's because that's the laugh is the thing, and that's what you want. And so the application of that being that, it goes back to the having no fear and just really putting everything out there and realizing that the moments when we're tempted to be embarrassed because they're laughing is like, isn't that our goal? To have them laugh on some level if we're doing comedy? Just that any response you get from the audience, be it a laugh or a gasp or silence, is amazing, because it means you have the audience in the palm of your hand regardless of what noise they're making. It doesn't always have to be laughter. Right. And one of the things that really helped me, I told you a story about an audition, I think, at one point, but one of the things that helped me a lot is Paul. I was in a class, I forget which one it was at I.O. Paul Grandi was teaching it, who's a very funny guy, very talented performer, and he pulled me aside and he's like, the basic gist of it was, Stephen, you need to learn how to work with people of all skill levels. because I think some of my frustration was showing when I was attempting things and stuff wasn't getting picked up on or whatever, and it was making me a worse improviser. I was making me a worse improviser. It wasn't the people I was playing with. And that was the lesson there, is like, this is on you. You know, it's not their fault that you're not able to navigate this.
Yeah.
You got to get to that place. So those are two big ones that come off the top of my head. And otherwise, it's just, you know, the process of being there, and some realizations, like I said, just about, you know, how the pressures can affect play, and how the more you can release those pressures or get around to just playing, the better. And some of those should be learned earlier. Were you at that? I think it was a Gainesville Improv Festival, and there was a show happening that was, if you were just to look at it, you know, textbook wise, it was a bad show. And we were watching this. Everybody in the place is watching this group. It was like an amateurish group. The moves they were making, like, you could tick them off in terms of like things you shouldn't do, or like not great moves in improv. Everyone was having a ball, and at one point Greg turned around and he says, "This isn't good, right?" And it wasn't, but everyone left that theater happy and had enjoyed that show, despite it being, you know, quote unquote not good or bad, but because they were enjoying each other so much and having so much fun with each other, it was a great show, and no one regretted being there.
Right, because we're all in it together. We're all on the same collective understanding of what this is at this moment.
Yeah.
Right. I'll turn that question back on me. Something that I am learning nowadays is that all the things that we don't focus on in improv, that's where like my attention tends to go to nowadays. So what I mean by that is, for example, and I shouldn't say this is by and large, no one's doing it, just very few, or I think not, it's just not widely taught. But for example, exploring the power of questions.
Yeah.
Or understanding how we can be more effective in endowment, or I should say, like, language. Using more possessive language, or using more language that helps illustrate or defines another person. And that means like going to things that you would never think about for an improv class, like going back to basic English 101. What's a noun? What's a verb? What's an adverb? And then going into that idea of like, how do I apply creative writing technique? What's a word fragment that I could use that could launch my partner without my partner under even knowing that I just casted some voodoo on them, and they're now playing vulnerable. For example, maybe we're in a scene together and you're so focused on getting those 1,000 pieces done before the hour, and I say something to the effect of, it's a shame that your last failure has made it that you can't trust yourself. It's a shame that you're being driven by the greatest failure that you've ever experienced in your pizza making. It still drives you. It's just, what a shame. And now people can call that endowment. They can call that bringing up information in the past. But the next part is really what's important. It's the word launch that gets them to actually, it cues them to say something. So it's a shame that you had that big failure in that last, that's driven your behavior today. Tell me more about that day. Tell me more. Right? That's the phrase. And that's something that I've been interested in. It's like, how do I cue my partner in a way that invites them to go deeper into something rather than skip over? Because I could make that comment and that person will go, "Oh, yes, it was horrible. Now help me put these pieces in the box." And it's like, well, what's more interesting? It, just fixing the pizza, or it's like, I know Mark Sutton would say, is it fixing the bike? Or what's more interesting is knowing what is driving this person's behavior.
Yeah.
Right. And why is it that this person, why would you be in a business where you have to make 1,000 pieces in 1 hour? Like, what kind of crazy person are you? you know, you know, uh, so using a word fragment like that, tell me more. And that's even the workshop that I've taught. I got to teach it up in Canada, and two of our ensemble members of SAC joined. They were in we were at a tournament, an improv tournament. Brett Walden, who I'm going to say right now, is an incredible improviser. He's incredible. I think he's just an incredible performer.
Yeah.
And then Chelsea Hyland, who is it's the queen of empathy. And she makes empathy happen on stage, and she's magnetic, and you want to just watch her work. I was so scared to invite them to this workshop, but they had some downtime, and I invited them. And I was so scared about inviting them to the workshop because it was one thing to teach an improv workshop to people that are students, but to have a workshop where your peers are in the workshop.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Like, there's something at stake. So that was for me what was at stake. That they may go, man, I can't believe Richard's teaching them that crap, and he got paid $300, in Canadian dollars. What the hell? No, government, I'm not claiming that. I'm a bad joke. So, but they afterwards they were like, wow, that was really awesome. That was really cool. And I know that I've attended a workshop that Chelsea taught, and what she taught was really, really neat and felt like not something that people focus on. And that's when I recently just come to this conclusion that it makes a lot of sense to try to get as many different experiences as you can in life, so you can bring it into your improv. But what's also is just as important is maybe you've written one or two poems in your life, but you really get stronger if you did more writing, and you really get stronger if you actually studied the structure a little bit more. You may not consider yourself the best rapper, but it's good that you practice, and it's also good to see what else are people doing. And so there's a great book called Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon, and it's about how creativity does not happen in a vacuum, and it's not just like magical. That the most creative artists of our time, they get creative because they steal from other artists. And so if you want really amazing ideas and creating amazing stuff, see who's doing it the best and steal what's best, and then make it your own. And that's what those artists keep doing, right? Pablo Picasso was inspired by Rodin. That's what we should be doing all the time. So why aren't we stealing from debate classes? Why aren't we stealing language and from hostage negotiators? Because improv is about creating dialogue that's persuasive. We're trying to make things happen. So why aren't we stealing from the very best people that persuade others? And so you get really great fresh takes on dialogue and action that really add to your craft as an artist and can add to the fabric of performers. And again, that's what I felt like Offsides did for me, because I was that guy who was, we got to get 1,000 pieces done in 1 hour. And instead of starting the scene with, why do I do this to myself? Why do I feel like I have to outdo my dad? He did 999 pizzas an hour. I could be happy with that. Why can't I just be happy with 999 pizzas an hour? What's in it? What's about me that I feel like I have to outdo him? Oh, I know what it is. Legacy. Ugh, that stupid word. Right? It's like, I'd rather see and hear about that person dealing with what's really driving their behavior.
Yeah.
But I learned that. I really believe I learned that from the offsides people.
Well, it sounds to me as well that when you talk about, stealing from the best or whatever, that what you're really trying to say is that you think people should be more like AI.
If I was AI, I would say that was a logo. But AI isn't stealing from people. People are willingly giving it over. Mic drop.
One of the other things about you, Richard, that I've always that has always impressed me, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but when we were first talking about viewpoints at one point, way back when, and when you read up about it or something, and you came in, you're like, you know what, today I'm gonna. It was pattern, I think. You're like, I'm gonna be playing with pattern, and this was, I think, even at a sax show. I was like, I'm gonna create these two lanes, and I'm just gonna stay in those lanes for this next scene, just to play with it, just to experiment with it, and like immediate application of something that you're intrigued with. I envy that about you, because you've always been so willing just to jump, and maybe it goes back to that, do a musical, okay, but you're intrigued by something and you immediately want to do it and experiment with it, even if it's in front of, or maybe especially because it's in front of an actual audience, and see how it goes, and then apply what you learn and move on. And I think that's one of the things that makes you such a great performer.
I appreciate that. When you say that, though, I wonder if that just anyone that I'm scheduled to play with today, I wonder if that's just going to make them run screaming.
Well, they won't hear it today, so you're fine.
Oh, good. But then when they hear it and they go, that explains that scene. Why was he? Why did he hop on every word? What was he working on?
Oh, that's Richard. All right. Well, I do want to be mindful of your time, and I want to get these Bernard Pivot questions if you're ready for them. This will be rapid fire.
Okay.
All right. So, just a quick short answer. We'll see how well I did in transcribing or creating these, and all the ones that fail, I'll blame on Kayla.
If you don't mind reminding us, Bernard Pivot, reminding us just so, because I know Bernard Pivot, but for those who don't,
classic.
I know
improv move. I love it. For whenever you get a suggestion that you don't know what it's about. These are, he was a French journalist, 1935 to 1924, interviewer and host of cultural television programs. Thank you, Wikipedia, which I just looked up real quick. But it's also, the Actor Studio questions are based on some questions that he devised.
Yeah.
That's why I'm throwing his name out there. It's more Actor Studio type questions. To try to understand a person and their thinking a little bit better. For Actor Studio, it was in terms of the craft of acting, hoping to bend it a little bit to improv to see, but some of these are also a little tongue-in-cheek.
Well, I'm glad I could help you.
So, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, I don't have a James Lipton impression, but maybe through this podcast I will develop one. How do you get into the proper headspace to play?
I always take a moment to look away from everybody and check in with myself. And then the next thing I do is I look at everyone and I go, don't try to get caught up being as funny as anybody else in the room.
Nice.
Because that's my failure. My failure is I'm trying too hard to be funny. The best thing for me to do is just to be quiet for a moment and then let it happen on stage.
I think so many improv green rooms lend themselves to that desire to, or that pressure to be funny, because you're on when you're in the green room, it seems. No one's given permission to be off.
Yeah.
What is your favorite get for?
What's something that you don't want anyone to know?
Do people respond?
No. No, they don't. But it's my favorite, and you asked. So,
what is your least favorite suggestion? I know this is probably there's a cycle here. At one point it could have been shake weight like me back in the day. But what is your least favorite suggestion?
Bathroom.
Sure. Describe your onstage persona. Who is onstage Richard versus offstage Richard?
It changes every day. Yeah, it changes every day. It depends on where I'm sensing the leadership is happening on stage. If another actor is like really feels like that they're kind of getting a lot of focus, is they're kind of the exciting thing to watch, then I try to be the wing guy. But if I know that is on me, then I try to be judicious.
Do you find yourself leaning toward any particular, like the examples I wrote down, just thinking of specific people that were successful doing these? So this isn't a critique on any of them, but some people are antagonistic toward the audience. Some people have a lot of bravado. Some people are just goofy. Do you lean in any direction?
Yeah, probably more goofy.
Okay. Do you have a favorite warm-up game, or we'll leave it there for now. Do you have a favorite warm-up?
I have in the classroom and in stage or getting ready for a show, two different things. Before the show, it's just talking with people and listening, and like I said, taking a moment to look away and get centered first, so then coming out as my best performer. And then the other way, but in workshops, stealing it from Greg Tavares. Knife is the name of the exercise.
Okay. When you're throwing it back around the circle?
You throw, it's kind of like a take on Zip Zap Zop.
Yeah.
You throw an invisible knife. Now you're throwing a knife and you're tossing a baby at the same time. And then eventually you're throwing a knife, tossing a baby, and throwing an angry cat. and all three things have to be tossed, and it just really focuses everyone to be present and ready to give and receive.
Do you have a favorite warm-up that you've invented or modified?
Ooh. I don't have a favorite because I'll come up with them, and then as soon as I come up with them, I'll forget them. So it's always evolving. It just is always evolving.
What inspires you on stage?
Scenes that start out with eye contact. Eye contact is fun to watch. Or to see a scene where scenes are started with good physical establishment activity is always fun. Chairs. Great scene. Great scene game. Just awesome.
That's explain that.
Two people have a chair each. Mm-hmm. They move around until they're told stop. They sit down in the chairs and the scene begins. From wherever they are and based on however they're positioned and if they're making eye contact, but the scene is really an example of, you mentioned viewpoints, it really is an example of organic improv.
Yeah.
Just what does this look like and what does it feel like? And that's just the best way to emerge or to have anything emerge. It looks like this, it feels like this. So let's go with that.
It's also a fun way to sort of release anything that you're bringing to the stage because you have to let it go.
Yeah. You have to get out of your own way.
Well, what shuts you down or takes you out of it on stage?
Criticism. And you could see it sometimes with people, they have a look on their face and they're hurt. And if there's one thing that I would love to change about me is if people are hurt, I always feel like that I've done something to do that. And then maybe sometimes you are. And then I have to be judicious. Now, if I see someone, performer, like violating like an audience member, violating in that they're being rude or nasty or whatever, I'm quick to become a mother, bear in that moment, right?
Yeah, because
or Papa Bear.
Because they knew.
Yeah, they know what's right, exactly. And again, that's just not the promise that the audience was given. And now suddenly you're doing that to them. But if I feel like that another player has been let down, that's hard for me to take. I feel really bad about those moments. And then it's often when you look back afterwards that you go, oh, okay, yeah, and you feel better. But you have to go through the lesson, man, because you got to go through the lessons.
What is your favorite accent or dialect?
Scottish.
Oh.
I know. I'm an Indian guy, but I love Scottish because there was this one video, viral video of a little girl. She's in the back seat of the car, and she's like, "Da, I want a boyfriend." and then the dad is looking at the through the mirror or no on his phone. And he's taping this right of them, and he's like, "You're not getting a boyfriend." And she's like, "Dad, I want a boyfriend. I need a boyfriend. I want a boyfriend." And he's like, "You're not getting a boyfriend, Dad. You're not getting a boyfriend. I'm going to take your boyfriend and I'm going to put him in the cupboard. I'm going to put him in the cupboard. And you know what I'm going to do next? I'm going to take you to church and bring you to God." Right? And she's just getting more and more irate. And I just love how he was responding to her. Because it wasn't this loud, "Oh, I'm squatting all," it wasn't this really over-the-top Scottish. He's just smiling. It's like, "You're not getting a boyfriend?" And so I just love the nuance of that. And I think that's something that I'm falling more and more in love with is the quirkiness. Or, of course, I will also say, anything that Alana Ubach does, I want to learn. I want to be her.
I don't know who that is.
She plays the wife on Ted, the TV show, and she's been in a bunch of it. She Meet the Fockers and Everything Sunny in Philadelphia. She's just an amazing character actress, and I'm like, man, she's so good. I want to be her. She's amazing.
Well, that leads into the next question. If you have one, what is your favorite character?
Any character, Alana Ubach. I have such a crush on her because she is so funny, and she plays characters that are so relatable.
What is the most helpful from the booth?
Oh, respond to our blackout or swing. I'm sorry, but that yes. The booth, the technician in the booth is the improviser, and I'm not going to try to turn this into a political argument, but okay, that's a very PC thing to say. There is still some level of hierarchy that has to happen, and so in lieu of someone editing the scene, yeah, it could be the technician that could edit the scene. Great, excellent. But when the actors call for it, take off the headphones, stop listening to Smash Mouth or whatever, and black out the scene. Stop it. Stop looking for that perfect sound effect. Like, I don't need to hear a kitten purr through the speakers. Like, just black out the scene because we told you to.
Yeah.
Because the moment happened, the audience has got the biggest amount of enjoyment. It can't get any better than this, or we're going to see another 8 minutes of trying to build up the momentum. And frankly speaking, we don't have much more time on our parking meters, so we got to come on. We got to get going. We got to end this thing. Sorry, you just said something that just really gets my nerves, which is this idea that all things being equal, well, it's like, well, I mean, if that's the case, then we should put the technician on stage with the actors. Because where's our attention? Like, honestly, if we could be honest with each other for a moment, where's the attention? The attention's on the stage. It's not on how well you pull the faders up and down.
Yeah.
But I think the pain that technicians feel is that they hear from pretentious actors like me. So.
Well, let's also be honest, though. Like, I've never seen a blackout denied by another actor or by the host, or or by an actor because the host. No one has ever caught the host's arm and said, "No, we're still going." So, not blacking something out because you're improvising with everybody doesn't, inaction doesn't seem like a great response. The only time I think I've seen anything akin to that, and I don't know if you were there, would have been, and I'll use his name because I hope to interview him at some point, but Ian Covell at the Amelia Street location, the blackout happened and the lights came back up and he said, "I wasn't finished." And he's like, we're gonna keep going. And so when we came back out onto the stage, and he opened his mouth to talk, and they blacked it out on him again. And then we did that like 2 times, and I think Ian may have legitimately been angry, though that's one of the things I'll ask him about, because that part of his stage persona was a little antagonistic, and it worked for Ian. That's the only time I've ever seen like the blackout been like, no, we're still gonna go, and then it turned into a little bit of a game, and we never actually went any further. Yeah, like if you miss the blackout, if you keep going, it's real hard to capture that moment again.
Yeah, I mean, but God love him though. The people, the technician, arguably got the hardest job.
Yeah. Well, and in that vein, then, and this is something that they would do, not something they didn't do, like missing a blackout or ignoring the blackout. But what is the least helpful from the booth? I think for me, I'd be tempted to say fart noises. Because that just you get the scene gets put in a lane if there's loud fart noises from the booth. Then that's where it has become a carry-on movie, and that's just what you just have to live with it then.
Well, and I know these are supposed to be rapid fire. I'm so sorry, but I guess if that's something that's seen at other theaters, I mean, what you mentioned, I've seen it, and in like at SAC, for example, but I don't know if that's an experience that other improv groups have.
Fart noises?
Played over, I just don't know if that's something that everyone can relate to, or if that's just those improv groups that, have that setup.
Yeah.
Because some improv groups just have lights, and that's it.
Yeah.
They don't have a sound improviser, or they don't have the sound hooked up,
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. It's like, I don't know if that's everyone's experience.
Yes. What's the best note you've received?
Oh, go line for line. Just when in doubt, just build up what the last thing said. I mean, and that's been echoed by many people.
Yeah.
So many people, and they've echoed it in their own way. So respect to all their books. Respect to all their books. But you guys are all saying the same things.
Yep. Yes.
So I just, you're packaging your book for this group of now, and your book will be around for a long time, but just don't get carried away.
I love that. What's the worst note you've ever received?
I don't think there's been a worst note. I think the only worst note is the note that really doesn't apply. You know that it's not a note. You know that it's an attack.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's just human nature. Sometimes people get hurt, and they kind of give notes because they're trying to create distance, or they don't know how to deal with you. And
yeah, I think you probably already mentioned it in the story from earlier. It could also be something like don't wear ripped jeans. Who cares?
Oh well, I mean, that's the expectation. Because I am someone who might say, hey, let's not wear shorts.
Yeah, I'm in that boat.
Let's not wear open-toed shoes. But if it's a place where there's no expectations, then you can wear what you want.
I'm in that boat with you, because my feeling is don't wear anything that's going to limit what we can do. And I feel like, especially like open-toed shoes or flip-flops, like what, that just, you're going to hurt yourself. And now I'm going to be worried about hurting you.
Right.
If there were an Academy Award for everything improv, what would you be nominated for?
Best mugging face.
If you are remembered 100 years from now for something you did in improv, what would you want it to be?
Oh, boy, he knows how to end a scene.
Nice. Unless that was a compliment to me.
Well, but yeah, he knows how to end the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Richard, for being here and doing the improv autopsy. I just appreciate you so much and for doing this.
Thank you. This was fun, but please, like, if AI will do a lot to cut things down and simplify, and you can even use AI to record the voice, and it's like, see, that answer was like 3 paragraphs. I'm going to turn it to 5 words.
We'll try. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
That's it for Richard II. For more information and or to support the podcast and get access to bonus content, you can find us on patreon.com/improvautopsy. And check out Creativity Effect, which is Richard's vocation but also a passion. If there is anyone you'd like me to interview, additional questions you have for me or any of my guests, or you'd like me and or my guests to autopsy a show of yours that's accessible online, you can contact me by sending a message to improvbrain@gmail.com. Or reach out through one of the links in the show notes. As always, thanks for listening to Improv Autopsy.